everyone, and thanks for joining us. My name is Amanda Baker, Senior Director of Client Services here at Revco, and I wanted to welcome you to the first installment of Revco's new Q&A Spotlight series, where we'll be sitting down with leaders across the healthcare industry to explore what's shaping the revenue cycle today. Each conversation will highlight real-world strategies, innovations, and the people driving meaningful changes inside their organization. Today, we're talking with Lori Jeffries, who's joined the Revco family after 30 years as a Director of Revenue Cycle at Duke Health, and whose career in healthcare revenue cycle management has been defined by partnership and collaboration. I've had the pleasure of working closely with Lori as a vendor partner during her time at Duke, and I'm very fortunate now to have her as a colleague here at Revco. From vendor relationships to her current role at Revco today, Lori will be sharing lessons learned, pivotal moments, and why she continues to contribute even in her retirement. So welcome, Lori.
Oh, Amanda, it's so good to see you. It's always good to talk to you, and thank you for that warm welcome. I appreciate it so much. I'm the one that feels so blessed and lucky to be here, so thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, we'll go ahead and get started then. So Lori, can you tell us a little bit about your career and what drew you to the healthcare vendor space?
Sure. So my career in healthcare revenue cycle, it began with this simple intention that I thought I wanted to become a nurse. Until I realized that my stomach had other plans. It was like, no, I don't think you're cut out for that. So, and I wanted to have a career, where a field where I truly matter, where things that I could contribute would truly matter, especially to patients and the people that do the work. So thank goodness for Revenue Cycle. It saved me from nursing and it saved patients from me being a nurse, right? So thank goodness for Revenue Cycle in healthcare. I started at Blue Cross and Blue Shield way back in 1985, where I was a claims processor. That was back when you had to manually key the claims on the red and white forms into the system, had high productivity rates. And then that led to my supervisor role in claims processing, accounts receivable, follow-up denials. After 10 years, then I had the opportunity to join Duke University Health Systems. And I had 30 years in revenue cycle leadership, where I would grow the teams and build processes and automations and lead through some of the biggest industry shifts we've ever seen, from paper processing back in the day, where you would have claims on a table and EOBs, and you would have to manually match them, or microfiche. And now we're fully automated. And, I think about the pandemic in all those 30 years and some of the horror stories that we had to move a call center and payer relations and our self-pay workflows home in a matter of 5 work days. You well remember those challenges.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It was quite challenging to do that. And so through all the years, we've come full circle in all of those large impacts. And so what drew me in really was, what kept me in it was the impact behind the numbers, really. Because revenue cycle, when you peel back the layers, it's about access and compassion and making healthcare less stressful for our patients. I mean, at the end of the day, you and I very well know that we don't want the patients to have to worry about revenue cycle. They have other problems that they have to worry about. So we really want to make revenue cycle as easy as it can be for the patient. And for the frontline staff. We want to remove the barriers, make the work easier, and teach the people the why, because I feel like when you teach them the why, everything else kind of falls into place, but it comes naturally for us all, right? If we understand the why better.
Absolutely. I love that. And yeah, the teaching that why is so impactful. And I don't think you realize how impactful that is until you have a leader who teaches you the why and everything clicks. So
yeah, I think that's where the creativity comes from the frontline staff, is when they better understand the full story, right? The full circle moment.
Yeah, great. Well, Lori, how did we get so lucky to have you here at Revco after retirement?
Oh, I'm the one that feels lucky, but so I will say it's really funny, because retirement for me, it really didn't look like slowing down the way some people may imagine it. And after those 30 years of loving a career, I loved everything about my career at Duke University Health Systems and all of the opportunities that that gave me with helping patients. It was really a fulfilled career. I feel very blessed about that. And I actually thought that I would take a breather for a while. You know, I'm just going to sit back and chill out, relax, and figure it out later. You know, I thought, you know, it'll come to me, right? And so God had a different plan early on, obviously. And the path led me to Revco without question. It was based on alignment. I had worked with Revco for many years. I knew the culture here, the integrity, the focus on relationships. It wasn't about transactions first, right? It was about relationships first. And that really mattered to me and how I live and do my day in and day out, whether I am at home or I am in my career helping others. So that truly mattered to me. So the opportunity came for me to be a consultant and try to help others. And it felt like, oh my goodness, full circle moment, right? I'm coming from Blue Cross and Blue Shield, where I thought I knew something going into Duke and I knew one payer. I go to Duke and I realize at Duke that I have to know all of these insurance companies. And then all of a sudden, I get this plan of, oh, join Revco. And now I get the full circle moment of being able to see all clients and not just Duke. So it's really rewarding. And I couldn't have dreamed up a better option, to be honest.
Yeah, I love that. And it's funny because I actually remember our last call when you were retiring and it was so sad to say those goodbyes. And then
Oh.
just a short time later you were joining us and what a treat that was. So I
It
love
was
that.
so sad. I was like, oh my goodness, I just can't imagine. That last call with Revco was quite painful. It really was. And I didn't want
Yeah.
to do that phone call for sure. But it wasn't long after that that I got to visit, you know, and come on site and really see the staff that I had been seeing on phone calls for years. And it was just quite the joy. So happy to be here.
You know, and I'm sure that all of the organizations, just in your short time that you've been able to kind of meet with and can all attest to what I'm saying as well, that it's such a unique situation, but to have that come full circle on the revenue cycle side as well, it really is such a treat. So we love having you.
Well, thank you.
So given your prior role, what makes a vendor relationship successful in your eyes?
Mm, uh, to me, I think it's really simple. It's about the partnership, right? You can talk about the work all day long, and don't get me wrong, transactions are important. They are important, but it's the partnership. And if you've got the partnership, when I was on the health system side, the vendors that truly made an impact were those vendors that came in and they understood the brand and the culture. They did their homework and they wanted to find out about our challenges and what are your goals. And, you know, they really wanted to better understand. And once they did that, that's when you move the needle, right? Because I feel like success is really, it's about three things, right? Alignment. I think of alignment, I think of transparency, and I think of shared ownership. If a vendor is only focused on their metrics and their mission, and vice versa, like if the healthcare system is only focused on their metrics and their mission, you've already created a silo that you really didn't even know existed. And there's going to not be that partnership. So when you align together in the success, the outcomes are going to come, and it cannot feel like an us, you know, and a them. It's got to be a we. So I just feel like it's about that partnership and the transparency, alignment, and shared ownership of all the processes on both sides.
Yeah. So can you maybe share a story where a strong vendor partnership led to a measurable outcomes for your clients or organization even?
You know, it's funny because I feel like I have to use a Revco example, and not because I'm at Revco, because but it's really about how powerful it was. And that was the fact that um, when I came into the department at Duke that was over EBO and bad debt and self-pay, I did not know the vendor Revco. I had been a part of setting up just about every outsourcing vendor at Duke University Health Systems from the very beginning, with vendors in India, vendors all over the United States. And so when I came into the department, I did not know Revco. And so I sat down with my team and I wanted to understand their work, and they shared their work with me. But at the end of the day, it's almost like I build my personal relationships. It was like, okay, I hear you. I'm hearing you from my own department. But I knew that in order to build that relationship, you have to do it yourself. And so I reached out to Revco and I said, I want you to also share with me the history. Take me way back. Take me back to the beginning of the SOW. Tell me what the challenges were back then. What were the expectations? And I wanted to learn about, the history and ask the questions. And so I reached out to the vendor and I met with them in length. And we started to build that relationship naturally without it feeling like it only came from my department, right? It wasn't robotic. It was more a natural relationship over time. And then one of the things that I think was really helpful, that really warmed my heart in this relationship, was I made a call to Steve and to Mike one day, and I asked them, I said, would you mind if I created what I call a town hall concept? We had some town hall concepts that we did at Duke, and I know other organizations had done that concept internally. And so I asked them, I said, could I do a town hall with your team, with the frontline staff? Would you allow me to get on a webinar with your department and the team that does the work? I would love to see their faces and I want to engage with them. But the biggest thing for me was I wanted to show the appreciation to the staff themselves. I wanted them to see me show that appreciation to them, because I didn't want it to be a message through people, right? It's almost like how you build your relationships. I don't want to build my relationship through someone else. I want to build it naturally with those people. And so I really wanted to thank them personally and have them on the call. And I wanted it to be a repeat, right? I didn't want it to be that message down. I wanted to be able to have these town halls and to learn from them and to get their ideas and ask for their suggestions and, ask about their families and things of that nature and get to know them, because I feel like when that appreciation comes through the people to the staff and the frontline staff, and they feel that, they're going to give that back. And when they give that back, it's a win-win situation, right? They're gonna feel more rewarded in doing the work. They're gonna share more challenges when they see them, and they're not just gonna be about robotic in the transactions. They're gonna remember the branding of Duke and that they're a part of that. And so I really felt like it would be important to be able to do that. And Revco was they were so kind about that idea. And they said, absolutely. They're like, we would love to do that. And so we started that and we created it and we kept doing it over a period of time. And I think it was just a win-win situation, really. I love the town
I
hall.
agree. I loved the town halls, and I loved I felt like that was such a turning point in our relationships, kind of going from like good, like we always had a good relationship, but it kicked it up, like it turned it great. Like it was a true partnership that, it was just so fun to be a part of and to have that felt throughout the organization, not just the people that are, talking to Duke every month, but down to, all levels of our organization.
Yeah. One thing that I remember, and I was told this by my management group, that was the managers and the supervisors and the analysts that we also brought to the call from Duke. And I remember them building that relationship individually with the analysts on the Revco side. And they did it naturally through that extension, right? And I didn't expect that. I mean, the goal was to show appreciation for Revco and the staff that do the work and to keep them at the table and to build that relationship. But what really transpired was more than that, right? I think that, they actually had conversations with Revco individually. They didn't have to wait for the monthly meeting. And I think that's what really made it powerful. So it was a true blessing on both sides, I think.
And everlasting, like that relationship with you being gone from Duke, that still stands. So
yeah, and that was the goal, right? I'm glad to hear that. I'm really happy to hear that. Yeah, that's good.
So moving on, Lori, from your perspective, what are common pitfalls vendors or clients face in these relationships? And then I guess in addition to that, how can that be avoided?
Mm. So, some of the pitfalls that I think of, the first one I could talk about, I guess, is assumptions, right? You don't want vendors or clients for that matter, assuming that they know each other, right? Don't assume that you know the client's needs because of someone else's, right? Let's say that you don't want a vendor to say, oh, I know what this client's going through on follow-up and denials because we do this over here with this client. You can't assume that you know what their challenges and the context of those challenges are. And so it's going to start with a disconnect. If you have assumptions, you're going to start with that disconnect, and disconnects are just going to broaden downstream. Another pitfall I think of is not setting clear expectations up front on both the goals and the communication. And, I remember a mentor a long time ago told me that, and I've never forgotten it over all these years, but a mentor of mine told me, if you don't define success from the start, like from the very beginning, if you don't define success, we're never going to agree on whether we achieved it or not. And I'm like, that stuck with me, right?
That's
And so
good.
you can't have
I
those
love that.
assumptions and you have to set the clear expectations. And you can't own the outcomes alone, right? Because if you own the outcomes alone, the next pitfall that's going to happen is silos. And none of us even like that word, number one. But at the end of the day, if you create the silo, a lot of times it's so hard to reel that back in. So you don't want to just, the clients can't go into a vendor and say, okay, I want to outsource this work to you, and then they walk away. Because when they do that, they automatically created a silo right out of the gates. And
Yeah.
creating that silo is going to make it difficult to, it's really going to make it difficult to understand trends, and people are not going to talk about problems that come to the table or the trends that may happen. So it's very important. You can never forget that it's a partnership, and you got to bring those operational owners in very early to prevent those silos from the very beginning, because it's just very imperative to do that. So those are some of the pitfalls. I mean, there can be a lot of pitfalls that you think about and what you can do to eliminate those pitfalls, but those are the main ones I think that are very important.
Yeah, those are good. So with that being said, what are some of the biggest lessons that you've learned about partnership and collaboration throughout your career?
It's a lot about maybe what I've already talked about around the relationships and success growing out of understanding and mutual respect. You can have the best technology in the world, you can have the strongest contracts or the most skilled team, but if you don't truly understand one another, and the culture and the priorities and the pressures, at the end of the day, the partnership's going to struggle, right? So I think it's a lot of what we've already talked about, really.
Yeah. What advice would you give to vendors hoping to create meaningful, long-lasting client relationships?
I think, you know, not just the revenue cycle goals, but to learn, do your homework around the brand and the culture and what their pain points are that we talked about, and the why behind priorities that they have. What are their strategic initiatives? And lead with care and curiosity. Be very curious. Be a student of their world, right? And the goal is to just build the trust as the foundation, and what worked for one health system is not going to work for another. What works for one vendor is not going to work for another, right? So that goes both ways. And to understand the human side of the work. People are going to remember how you made them feel. At the end of the day, it's just that simple. And these things that we talk about roll down and affect the patient. We don't talk about that a lot in revenue cycle, right? We do know that we impact the patient, but day in and day out, when we're talking about these relationships, the vendor relationship, the client relationship, all of those things, is everything we touch is impacting that patient. Because without the patient, there is no revenue cycle, right? So
yeah,
it's touching that patient.
that's such an that's such an interesting perspective, really, that I'd never even thought of, is our relationships, and how that impacts our patients. So I love that you mentioned that, because that's a really good perspective.
Yeah, and I think, I don't want vendors to be afraid, across other health systems too. I mean, across the United States, there are so many vendors, and I don't want them to be afraid of, doing what we did, offer the town hall.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Revco may offer the town hall on their side to other clients. I mean, I think it's important, to be able to build those relationships early on, because it's going to set the concept of a motivator right out of the gates of, I really want to do great work. And if they understand you and they're a part of that trust and that family dynamic, they're really going to want to make each side proud, right? It's all about that dynamic. So, yeah.
Good. And then last question, Lori, kind of just piggybacking off that a little bit, but any advice for healthcare leaders on how to evaluate, manage, and really just to get the most out of their vendor relationships?
Well, I think you have to make sure that, once the conversations begin, it's early on, right? It can begin with contract discussions. It can begin early, even before the contract discussions, getting to know the vendor, getting to know the client. I think that you have to bring in operational ownership across different departments early on into those conversations, because you don't want, say, a marketing or a sales team to have a lot of the knowledge base about the branding and the culture and what's going on with their strategic initiatives, and then they message it downstream, because you kind of know, right? When you message something downstream to 10 different people, it comes out on the end a different way. So if you try to tell one story to 10 different people, it comes out different. So I think it's important to have the people at the table early on, so that you're building that relationship right out of the gates. You're hearing the challenges with each other, and you're solving the problem early on, right? You're getting ideas early on. And then you're not creating the silos, right? We talked about that. You've got to stay engaged. And one of the important things too that I think I talked about was, don't hand off from a client perspective. Don't hand off the outsourcing or the workflow and then just walk away without constant engagement. One of the things that made Duke and Revco extremely successful was the fact that when we built that relationship, the managers, the supervisors, the analysts, they would reach out to each other. They didn't have to have a scheduled meeting. They would reach out to each other whenever they felt the need. And I think you have to do that, but I also think you have to have scheduled meetings, like once every month. Come to the table and talk about what's working well, what's not working well, what have the accomplishments been, what do we want to change going forward, and then do those town hall celebrations, if not quarterly, at least every 6 months, because you want the staff to be reminded how important they are to the bigger picture and the difference that they truly make to our patients, right? You really want that. And so you want the gratitude to flow down to the front lines where the magic happens. It's all about where the magic happens, right?
It's all about the magic. I agree.
It's all about the magic.
Well, Lori, your career has just been such a testament to the power of partnership, from shaping your own journey and then to also helping Revco succeed. Your insights have shown that collaboration, trust, and shared goals can transform not just the process, but really people's careers and lives. So thank you so much for joining us today. This was such a pleasure to have the chance to catch up and just chat with you.
It's always a pleasure to talk to you, Amanda. And I'm just so grateful to be a part of Revco and to be able to share in the future and spotlight leaders, right? And to be able to spotlight other healthcare systems and the great things that they're doing across the United States. It's just, there's a lot of magic happening, and we've got to share it because we want everyone to be successful at the end of the day. So it's a joy to see you, and thank you for your time. I appreciate being here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so excited to see what the future has in store. Before we close out, though, I'd love to give you a chance to kind of just introduce what's next for this Q&A series.
Oh, that's great. Yes. Okay. So to speak about, some of the things that we're going to start doing is we want to do spotlights with other leaders in other healthcare organizations. And we want to, what are they automating? What are some great things that they've done that's made a difference in revenue cycle? What are some things that they've overcome with partnerships, right? And we want to interview them and we want to put them out there and give them the spotlight because at the end of the day, that's how we all learn, right? And we learn from each other and we want to help each other. And, I want to be a part of helping those people that have integrated into large systems like Epic and other systems and the pain points. And so I think interviewing these people that have done great things to help our patients and each other, we really want to spotlight them and bring them to the forefront so that we can all continue to learn and help each other out, right? Because at the end of the day, it does touch the patient and we want to be at our best level on anything that touches the patient, right?